Hey everyone, Mitch coming in for the Commander's Core Studio. Welcome to the show. So, off to the races, one might say. These commanders are so hot right now, they are on fire. There are so many new decks being built around them. Let's jump in and talk about these brand new commanders that are already making a massive impact on Commander. And I can't believe this number already. I mean, I can believe the popularity of this commander, Obca Splitter of Seconds. The most popular new commander. This thing is on fire. Literally on fire. 3,195 decks to its name. And again, Outlaws at Thunder Junction just came out recently. And also kind of with that too. I mean, yeah, you could say that, oh, okay, well, during preview season, like people start building ahead of time. Yes, they definitely do. But this number is obscene. This number is absurd. Obca is going to be potentially, I mean, just with this trajectory, one of the most popular commanders of all time, potentially, which is crazy. Let's talk about this ability. A 2/5 Ogre Warlock with Menace for 4 mana in Grixis. Whenever Obca Splitter of Seconds deals combo to a player, you get that many additional upkeep steps after this phase. Now, Obca has always been one to break the mold. I mean, the old Obca was like, hey, let's just like do stop turn shenanigans. Love it. This one's like, hey, let's just get extra upkeeps. Things that commanders or, decks typically don't do. Now, many decks out there have like upkeep triggers that happen, but not a commander that's like, let's just go all in on getting all the upkeep triggers all the time. So that's a very exciting brand new commander. One that, again, no other commander is like it, which I guess makes sense with how popular this is so far. But still, again, that number is just obscene. That number is absurd. This thing is on fire. 3,195 decks to its name. If you haven't seen this played at LGS yet, you probably will within the next month or so. So yeah, Obca Splitter of Seconds, definitely a very exciting, brand new, amazing Grixis commander. Now, moving down ever so slightly. Now, still incredibly popular. It's just that Obca set, the first place mark a bit high. Let's just say that again. Obca was what, 3,195? Gitrog is nearly at 1,000. Okay, 988. That is still a ton. Again, Outlaws of Thunder Junction just came out. We're not expecting a lot of decks to be built around any of these, and many of them are quite popular so far, but Obca just says, yeah, I blew everything else out of the water. Regardless, the Gitrog, not surprising this one is very popular. Ravenous Ride, players out there love Gitrog. Like every kind of Gitrog interaction, right? Every Gitrog is adorable, right? I think Gitrog and Thalia was one of the most popular from that set, and then the original Gitrog, maybe not one of the most popular, but definitely very iconic. Regardless, a 6/5 frog that costs 5 mana in Golgari, Trample, and Haste. Deals combo damage to a player. You may sacrifice a creature that's saddled this turn. If you do, draw X cards and put X lands from your hand on the battlefield. Tap or X the sacrifice creature's power. Saddle 1. This is a commander that says, hey, do you like power? Yeah, power. Okay, do you like lands? Yeah, lands. Do you like drawing? Yeah. Yes, you get all those things. What you can do with this commander is absurd. You can do things so quickly with this. Again, Trample, Haste. Right away you can swing with it. Right away you can get damage through with it. And you just like saddle it with like a wall of blood or something like that. And you're like, okay, I drew 20 cards. Cool, I get 10 lands in play. Cool, all right. Really far ahead of you. Yeah, this is one that can just go absurdly, obscenely fast. Very effective, very efficient. And again, like I talked about before, players love power, players love lands, players love drawing. All those things you get on the Gitrog monster with saddle shenanigans as well. So yeah, a very interesting commander. 988 decks to its name. Good enough for, well, a far cry to first place because, goodness gracious, that's a giant gap. But still, an absurdly popular new commander. Next up, though, at 939 decks to its name already, Kellen the Kid. Again, I'm not trying to undersell any of the ones after Obca, just that Obca is an anomaly, apparently. But yeah, all the other ones are very popular so far, too. Again, especially since it just came out. 3/3, Human Fairy Rogue for 3 mana in Bant, Flying and Lifelink. Lifelink. Does that work? No. Well, lying. No, not lying either. Flample's like the only one that really works. Anyways, whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, you may cast a permanent spell with equal or lesser mana value from your hand without paying its mana cost. If you don't, you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. So, players out there, I mean, like, before Prosper, but ever since Prosper, really, players like, hey, Can we just play things from not my hand? Because that's interesting. Yeah, being able to play things from, again, your graveyard, being able to play things from exile, being able to play things from the top of the library. Lots of options with this one. And when you're doing so, yeah, cheat things. Just cheat permanent spells. Why not? And if you're not cheating permanent spells, get lands into play, for free essentially. So, yeah, this is a commander that says, I give you a different avenue of value. Again, you want to, kind of like Prosper, play from anywhere. I mean, Prosper's like exile, but again, don't play from your hand. Play from other places. And when you do so, you get a massive benefit. And again, ramping. Who doesn't love ramping? So yeah, you're in Commander. Get a lot of lands out into play. Kellen is one that can help you out in a lot of cool scenarios. So yeah, Kellen the Kid, a very new, very interesting, very unique commander. Not surprised to see this one already at 993, 939 if I can speak properly, decks to its name. Next up, also not surprising, at 797 decks to its name, Roxon! Okay, I'm not a good singer. Starfall Savant. I'm a terrible singer, actually. 4/3 Cat Druid for 5 mana in Gruul. When it enters the battlefield or attacks, create a tap colorless artifact token named Meteorite with, when it enters the battlefield, 2 damage any target, and tap for 1 mana of any color. On top of that, whenever you tap an artifact token for mana, add 1 mana of any type that artifact token produced. So this one is very popular for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's very interesting, all right? Being able to say, hey, ETB or attack, and there's ways to use and abuse, well, especially the attacking in these colors, yeah, you get extra mana rocks essentially that come into play and deal damage as well. And of course, you can use damage doublers, damage triplers as well to make that even more impactful, or Panharmonicon type effects to get that again, or Wolfgar as well. Regardless, this one also is very popular because, well, treasures are very popular, and because your treasures now tap for basically twice as much, this is, well, going to be quite powerful. Essentially, you get this into play, and you can just have a massive boost of mana. Kind of like a, just like, commander that is a ritual effect in itself, where it says, let's just double up all the things you're already going to be doing anyways, and of course, play really interestingly with, again, Meteorite, cards like that. Not cards like that, I guess. Artifact token cards like that. So yeah, you have different cards that can work in this way, different ways that you can take advantage of those artifact tokens, and of course, again, treasures. So yeah, not surprising to see this one at 797 decks already. Next up at 792 decks to its name. Yeah, I'm never gonna get used to that creepy smile. Yeah, thing's weird. Loot, the key to everything. A 1/2 Beast Noble with Ward 1 for 3 mana in Teamer. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile a top X card your library, X the number of card types among other non-land permanents you control. You may play those cards this turn. So again, giving you access to, well, cards in a different way. Again, not just, hey, draw cards. No, it's you temporarily get access. You get that impulse draw, but in a unique way. I care about all kinds of permanent types. I want you to have a lot of different kinds of permanent types in play, and the more that you have, well, the more cards I'm going to give you. So having some indestructible, some hexproof ones in play, ones that can protect themselves, ones that can stick around, can be huge. Just having a wide variety of cards can lead to, well, this commander making use of some cards that might not see a lot of play elsewhere. And when it comes to those kinds of cards, those kinds of commanders, they tend to be quite popular when they kind of unlock a brand new avenue. And of course, this type of commander that also can benefit from, well, some of the things, again, like Prosper benefits from some of those cards that are like, hey, when you're playing things from exile, when you play things from outside your hand, you get extra benefits. So yeah, this is a commander that is low to the ground, has some slight protection itself, but can give you an absurd amount of temporary card advantage throughout the game. It's not even funny just how much card advantage it can give you. So yeah, 792 decks to its name. Loot, the key to everything. That creepy smile's gonna haunt me in my dreams. Next up at 706 decks to its name, Aret or Arit, or however you say that, is back, the Beguiler. I never know how to say that. 4/4 Human Warlock with lifelink for 4 mana in Esper. Whenever an aura you control becomes attached to a non-land permanent, opponent controls with mana value less than or equal to that aura's mana value, gain control of that permanent for as long as that aura is attached to it. Hey, do you want every single one of your auras to be a controlled magic? I mean, with a slight restriction that it has to be like, that mana value or less. Cool. There you go. Every single one of your auras can now steal your opponent's creatures. And yeah, there are a decent amount of auras out there that are at least like, 5 mana or so. So yeah, you can steal some decently large, like mid-size to, yep, of course, small things, but there's a lot of impactful creatures out there that are at that value. And again, it's not just creatures too. Again, it is non-land permanent. So of course you can steal artifacts, you can steal enchantments, you can steal, well, planeswalkers, you can steal a lot of things. Luckily not stealing lands because that would get grody. But yeah, a crazy powerful effect. And one that, again, the original Aret took auras in a different direction, said, hey, let's make auras very, very powerful in this way. And now it's doing it again. Aret is saying, hey, you know what? I am going to be making auras powerful in another unique way, giving you access to even more colors. Have fun with this Esper strategy of, well, taking your opponent's best things on the board and utilizing them against them. Even if this is dealt with, you still get to keep them. So your opponents need to deal with the auras, and if they don't, they're going to be in big trouble. 706 decks to its name. This brand new direction for auras. Not surprised to see this one up there already. Moving on, one of my favorite commanders from the Outlaws of Thunder Junction, we've got Marchesa, Dealer of Death, a 3/4 human rogue for 3 mana in Grixis. Whenever you commit a crime, you may pay 1. If you do, look at the top 2 cards of your library. One of them goes in your hand, one goes into your graveyard, and again, as a reminder, target opponents, anything they control and/or cards in their graveyards is a crime. So this is one of the very few repeatable crime-committing commanders. That's a mouthful right there, but basically you know what I mean. Not triggers only once each turn, essentially. So this one is one that you can keep committing crimes again and again and again. As long as you can keep paying that 1, you can keep getting that benefit again, again, and again. Which means additional, of course, card selection, card advantage, and also, well, getting things in your graveyard too, which can be very, very beneficial for maybe things with flashback, things that actually want to be in your graveyard, things like, I guess, Threshold, sure, there you go as well. There's definitely some graveyard shenanigans that you can do as well, like Reanimator could be as well. So this is a commander that can go in a couple different directions. It's one that, again, can utilize some interesting cards and say, like, I can just commit crimes in these really weird ways, really specific ways, again, again, again. Utilize some really old, janky cards. Who doesn't like to do that? 614 decks to its name, Marchesa, Dealer of Death. Not surprised to see on this list. I think you're a very interesting, very unique, very awesome commander, and I love this new take on Marchesa. Next up, and I probably should have mentioned this to start, but I kind of like put like the mark. I basically was like just looking at this beforehand. I was like, you know what? Okay, what is a good amount of decks to have already that is interesting? And I said, you know, like 500 or so already. Again, it literally came out days ago. So if we have like 500 decks to a commander, it means that players are really excited about that one. So that's where I made the mark. So 578 decks, Riku of Many Paths, a 3/3 human wizard for 3 mana in Teamer. Whenever you cast a modal spell, choose up to X, or X the number of times you chose a mode for that spell. Exile the top card of your library until the end of your next turn. You may play it. Counter on Rico, gains trample until end of turn. Create a 1/1 blue bird creature token with flying. This is a commander that I definitely thought would be pretty popular already. And yeah, not surprised to see it on this list so far. This, I believe, and correct me below in the comments if I'm wrong on this, is the very first commander or any card ever to mention the word modal. So actually putting a definition to that is really interesting. And again, it opens up a new space. It opens up this ability to say, hey, take all those modal spells, the ones that give you either, you know, choose one, but most likely you're going to like choose one or more, or choose any number, or whatever those are, chuck them into a deck. I mean, you want to have a lot of synergies too, but chuck them into a deck, and you have a home for all of them. You have a home for so many cool synergies. This is like Aragorn, but for Aragorn the Uniter, but for modal spells, essentially saying like, you know what? You now have so much extra value just by playing this singular spell. This singular spell, it's already going to give you, again, 3 options. You can pick all 3 or whatever they are. Cool. Now you get 3 extra benefits for that. Go wide with a bird army, get extra impulse draw, and also, sure, turn Rico into a Voltron if you really want to, and hit your opponents for a lot of damage. It's a very interesting commander, and again, one that allows you to take cards in a different direction, one that gives you a new avenue for play, which, yeah, is usually a good recipe for success when it comes to becoming a popular commander. So yeah, 578 decks to its name, Riku of Many Paths. Moving on, 578 decks as well, and yeah, actually these are ordered, and you know, Riku got the, you know, bump ahead apparently, but it doesn't really matter. It's not really like a top 10. It's just more so, yeah, EDH Rec had in this order. Regardless, Rakdos the Muscle. Yeah, exactly. 6/5 Demon Mercenary with Flample. There we go, Flample. I tried, you know, flying and lifelink. Didn't work out. Flample still works. 4/5 mana in Rakdos. Whenever you sacrifice another creature, exile cards equal to its mana value from the top of target player's library to the end of until your next end step. You may play those cards in mana of any type can be spent to cast those spells. Sacrifice another creature, Rakdos the Muscle gains indestructible of turn. Tap it actively once each turn. So this is a commander that, well, does something we really haven't seen before. I mean, like, you can build it in a couple different directions, but like one avenue for victory could literally be Rakdos Mill. Who's heard of that? Has that ever been a thing? I mean, okay, let me know in the comments below if you already have a Rakdos Mill deck or something completely different. You are just just breaking down barriers for essentially Rakdos, not, going, like, okay, we're going to go sacrifice, we're going to go damage. No, just saying like, you know what? No, we're going to mill players. That's what we're going to do. Rakdos. So this commander essentially, again, is one that, again, can be built in a unique way and do some exciting things. It's also pretty powerful, being a 6/5 Flampler for just 5 mana that can become indestructible to protect it. Can also utilize that as a sacrifice outlet, essentially, to sacrifice that creature to do that. You, of course, get a lot of card advantage off of this as well. You can, of course, again, play off of those, hey, cast things off the top of your library, cast things from exile or whatnot kinds of effects, essentially. And also, you can just maybe threaten effect your opponent's creatures and just gain control of them and then mill them with your own creature's power. There's a lot of avenues to victory with this one. It's a very exciting one. And again, a different direction. We're seeing this, obviously play out pretty much every single spoiler season. Every single time we look at, what new commanders are popular and be like, okay, like, did they do something different and unique, or are they incredibly powerful? Those are usually two things that are requirements for them to become a new popular commander. 578 decks to its name. Not surprised to see it. Rakdos the Muscle. Next up, also something we don't see very often, is a commander at 1 mana. Tiny Bones is back and adorable, just running on a piano for some reason. The Pickpocket, a 1/1 skeleton rogue with death touch for a single black mana. Whenever it deals combat to a player, you may cast target non-land permanent card from that player's graveyard, and mana of any type you set to cast that spell. They need to just shrink that text and be like fixed mana. I don't know. There needs to be a term for that instead of it just being, yeah, mana of any type if you spend to cast that spell. It's just so wordy. Just fix it, okay? I know, I guess there's a lot of things to memorize, but still, that's just really wordy. Anyways, a very exciting new commander, one that is low to the ground, one that says, oh, get me out early, start milling your opponents early, getting things in their graveyard in this way or that way, and then all of a sudden, yeah, your opponents, libraries become yours. Well, their graveyards, which were their libraries, become yours. So yeah, being able to utilize their own cards against them, there's some exciting plays that you can utilize with this one. Again, low to the ground commanders like this one are few and far between. We typically don't see ones at 1 mana, or I guess 0 mana with Rog, but yeah, 1 mana. So yeah, when we do see one, sometimes it can really take off. And Tiny Bone's just so adorable that, of course, it can. Players love stealing things as well. So yeah, 540 decks to its name. Congratulations, Tiny Bone, the Pickpocket. Next up, just over 500 decks to its name. 513 to be exact. Ty Joaquin, and my apologies if I mispronounce any names on this episode. Perfect Shot, a 2/3 human mercenary for 2 mana in Boros, one of my favorite commanders from the set. Whenever a source you control deals non-combat damage to a creature equal that creature's toughness, draw a card. Pay X, tap. If a source you control deal non-combat damage to a permanent or player this turn deals that much damage plus X instead. This a very unique, very interesting commander that, again, goes about things in a different way. Says, okay, with damage, you usually don't care if you go over, right? Or sometimes now we have things that you don't care about if you go over. You want to kind of trample through a damage sometimes, with certain effects and that kind of stuff. That's kind of a thing sometimes. But with this kind of a commander, it's like, no. You don't want to go over. You want exactsies. You want exact number. We've all seen a commander that's like, oh, any amount of damage will take anything out. But no, this one's like, no, you want exact number. When you hit that right spot, when you hit the exact number that you want, jackpot. You are getting so many cards on top of taking out your opponent's things. So, of course, and your own things, too, if you build around that. You can be like, a bunch of 1/1s, and then just 1 damage all my creatures. Yay, draw a bunch of cards! So you can do that, too. So this is a commander that takes things in a different direction. It's a unique Boros commander. I love that they are starting to take Boros commanders, ever since, Osgear, into unique directions and saying, hey, this is a different way that we can play around with the Boros, not just the Boros boring, is what it used to be called essentially with, Boros boring with, okay, attack. No, we go in a different direction. We go damage, but we go damage with exactsies. Draw a bunch of cards. Also manipulate your damage, because you can also turn this into a finisher too and be like, oh, okay, cool. I just dealt 1 damage to my opponent with this, but I've got 10 extra mana lying around. Now let's just deal 10 extra damage with this. You can do some really cool things with this one. I love this design. 513 decks to its name. Now, next up, I decided to actually break these out in a separate way with the pre-con commanders. The most popular of those is actually Stelly Wildcard, according to EDH I should say. 1,472 decks to its name. The reason I broke these out into a separate section as well, when it comes to pre-con commanders, sometimes, and I'm not accusing all players of this, or it's not even like an accusation, but it's just, sometimes players just, when they buy the pre-con, they just put the pre-con deck just as it is up on a website, and then that gets pulled by EDH Rec, and it's just like, okay, that player bought the pre-con. They didn't build the deck, they just bought the pre-con. So that is kind of like inflating sometimes with some of these numbers, but other times it's not as well. Like, again, I'm sure there's a lot of Stelly decks out there that are just like built from the ground up and not from the precon itself. Or, of course, there's the other option where it's like, okay, I bought the Stelly precon, I made these adjustments, and yeah, it is my own deck at this point, so there you go. So it's pulling all those things. Regardless, yeah, the most popular out of all the precon commanders, the potential precon commanders, Stelly wildcard, a 2/4 human rogue for 3 mana in Izzet. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, exile the top card of your library until the end of your next turn. You may play that card. So yeah, additional impulse draw, lovely. On top of that, though, and this is the crazy part, tap, copy target, insert source spell you control. You choose targets for the copy. Active one of you cast 3 more spells this turn. Brokenly powerful. Lots of ways to go crazy with it. You don't have to combo with that, but you can combo the ham sandwich with that. So yeah, very, 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 very powerful commander. Very unique commander as well. Not surprised to see this one at the top of the mountain, essentially, when it comes to the precon commanders. The potential for this one is just insane and pretty easy to combo with. So yeah, dramatic reversals, cerulean wisp, those kind of things can just go really wild with this one, or just, yeah, some extra turn spells and copying those two. You're gonna win. Yeah, a very powerful commander. Not surprised to see it again. 1,472 decks to its name. Next up, though, Gonti giving Stelly a run for their money at 1,324 decks, 5/5 Aetherborn Rogue for 5 mana in Sultai. Spells you cast but don't own cost 1 less to cast. You can see where this is going. So Sultai is a little bit salty. Whenever one or more creatures you control deal combination to a player, look at the top card of that player's library, then exile face down. You may play a card for as long as it remains exiled. And again, the text that just like, like, and add mana of any type can be set to cast spell. Again, like, fix that. Just give us a word, please. Just a word. Just like, and free mana. No. Mana freedom. No, I don't know. Anyways, this is the type of commander that says, hey, do you like those flying men type decks where you just have a bunch of like evasive low to the ground creatures? Yeah. Do you like card advantage? Yeah. Do you like card advantage that's not your own? Yeah. Do you like cost reduction? Yeah. Okay, you get all those things and then some with this commander, or I guess just really all those things. 1,324 decks to its name. A very interesting commander again. Potentially the 3 most powerful color combination in commander. Again, with Sultai, you get a lot of good things with this. And you have a lot of options, a lot of access to low to the ground evasive creatures that can get through, that can help you essentially say, let's build up just an absurd storage of our opponent's spells, utilize them against them for cheaper than they'd be able to utilize them, and do some crazy things with it. So yeah, this is the type of commander. Not surprised to see it up here again. Not quite that Stelly level, but 1,324 decks to its name. Quite a few decks already for Gonti. Next up, a little bit of a drop down, but still a lot of decks already. 926 decks to its name. Yuma Protector, a 6/6 human ranger for 8 mana and Nigh. It's going to cost 1 less cast for each land card in your graveyard. Enters the battlefield or attacks, you can sacrifice a land if you do draw a card. Whenever a desert card is put in your graveyard from anywhere, get a 4/2 green plant warrior chosen with reach. This one can be built in a couple different ways, but yeah, it really opens things up for Desert Tribal. Giving deserts a home with a commander is huge, and this is a great home for them because the more and more deserts you get in your graveyard, well, the less is this going to cast. You can just keep recasting this again, cheat on some commander attacks, get it out. Also, when you're entering the battlefield or attack again, sacrifice those deserts or other lands, whatever they are, draw a card, and then yeah, when you are sacrificing those deserts specifically, make creature tokens. Go wide and just go crazy with this kind of a commander. So yeah, you can go just like general lands. You, of course, can go really hard into deserts as well. You can go to ways to like get lands out of your graveyard, get them back into play, Crystal Worlds, that kind of stuff as well. Pretty powerful effects. Again, always cheating on commander attacks is going to be a pretty powerful thing. This one at 926 decks to its name is good enough for 3rd place out of the precon commanders. Next up, in a bit of a surprising upset potentially, the 4th most popular commander out of the precons is actually not a face commander. The face commander has been replaced as the most popular one. This is actually Vhon Goldwaker, the secondary commander, not the face commander, in one of the decks. A 3/3 Dwarf Warlock for 3 mana in Mardu. Other outlaws you control Vigilance and Haste. And at the beginning of combat of your turn, oh, by the way, you may have treasures you control become 3/3 Construct, Assassin, Artifact, creatures of other types until end of turn. This kind of just shows just how much players out there love treasures that, yeah, you're going to make a deck where you just make a bunch of treasures and then smack your opponents with them. So, yeah, this is the type of commander, again, that just shows that, you know what, you can take something that is already a very, very powerful theme and kind of turn it into a different direction. So, again, it takes treasures, but in a different direction. You're getting a lot of treasures out. Sure, you can utilize some of them for mana if you really want to, but also it's just like an army in waiting for you. It's an army in waiting on your turn to say, oh, okay, I've got Vigilant, Hasty, 3/3s that of course have ways to, pump. I got a lot of anthems in these colors. I've got some hasty effects. I got some ways to essentially say, you know what? Let's get things out quickly. Let's go wide. Maybe get some lifelink. Maybe double strike. Hit my opponents with treasures and take them out in a way they haven't taken out before with treasures. So yeah, this is a commander that again has just usurped the actual face commander of the precon, which is really interesting. Vhon Goldwaker, 841 decks to its name. Next up, the second to Gonti actually makes it up here as well. That's Felix 5 Boots, a 5/4 Ooze Rogue with Menace and Ward 2 for 5 mana Insult Time. If a creature control dealing combat damage to a player causes a triggered ability of opponent you control to trigger, that ability triggers initial time. This is the kind of design that Wizards knows is going to be decently popular. Essentially, it's like, hey, take this thing and double it. Usually it's triggers and that kind of stuff. So yeah, take that, double it. This time it is combat damage on opponents. Being able to just get through, hit your opponents essentially, and say, you know what? Let's double that up. Let's get that again. Luckily, at least for me, I'm going to say, luckily, this is not in red, so you don't get, extra combats as well to get really crazy with this, but still a very exciting commander. One that can be taken in a couple of directions, but yeah, just get creatures out, make them evasive, hit your opponents, or get creatures out that have triggered abilities when they hit, and then do so. So yeah, 738 decks to its name. Again, the second most popular secondary commander. Moving on, down to just 618 decks to its name. Still above that 500 mark, but still, again, the commander, the face commander that was usurped, the commander that is not as good as the other one, the secondary in the deck, apparently, or not as good, not as popular, I should say. Olivia Outlaw, a 3/3 vampire assassin with flying and lifelink for 4 mana in Mardu. Whenever one or more outlaws you control deal combination to a player, create a treasure token. Again, that's assassins, mercenaries, pirates, rogues, and warlocks. Pay 3, sacrifice 2 treasures. You get 2 counters on each creature control activated on sorcery. This one kind of, I guess, might give you a little bit of insight into why this one is the secondary commander when it comes to popularity out of its own deck. And that just might be because maybe Outlaws as a tribe isn't as popular as Wizards might have thought it was going to be. And maybe it's just players like the treasures. Yes, you can do some outlaw tribal things with Vhon as well. Again, other outlaws you control vigilance and haste. That being said, if you just lean heavily into treasures with Vhon, that's probably what most players are doing, just making absurd amounts of treasures and winning from there. Olivia, you have to lean into those outlaws, getting those kinds of effects to actually get that value out of them with those treasures. So because of that, maybe again showing just, yeah, players maybe more so wanting to lean into the treasures versus lean into outlaws. That actually is kind of the discrepancy here. So yeah, Olivia, again, at 618 decks to its name. Good enough for, though, the second most popular commander out of the 2 commanders in its own deck. And I'm just going to wrap up these last 2 really quick. They actually are underneath 500 commander decks around them. 415 decks for this one, Aret Or Arit the Storm, but just really quick to wrap up the last 2 out of the possible commanders from the precons, okay? Aret Or Arit the Storm, obviously the secondary to Stelly, a 4/4 Elemental Warlock for 10 mana in total. It's going to cost us cast for each different mana value among instant source cards in your graveyard. Flying Prowess, whenever you catch your second spell, you turn, create a 4/4 red dragon elemental creature with flying and prowess. I think this one's incredibly interesting. I'm just not all that surprised that Stella's seeing a lot more play already because Stella's power level is not, I was going to say infinite, but yeah, basically infinite with the amount of crazy things that you can do with it. So yeah, Aret Or Arit the Storm not getting nearly as much attention. I still think a very interesting commander. That being said, Stelly definitely took the cake. So 415 decks to its name, Aret Or Arit the Storm. And finally, the least popular commander I'm going to be talking about today, and in the precons, of course, Kiri, Talented Sprout, 127 decks to its name, just 127. Again, was shooting for 500, not quite there. 0/3 Plant Druid for 4 mana and Naya. Other plants and tree folk you control get +2/+0. Beginning of your post-combat main phase, return target plant, tree folk, or land from your graveyard to your hand. Yeah, apparently Plant, Tree Folk, Tribal didn't really catch on, so far at least. So yeah, this one, not too popular. I think that's all that we can say about that one. 127 decks to its name. Probably the, in my opinion at least, the least interesting design out of all of the precon commanders. So I'm not surprised to see this one down in the depths again at 127. Again, compare that to, with the absurdity of that very first one. Stelly at 1,400 is a ton. And again, it's a precon commander, so it already has the decks built around it. But also the absurdity of our very first one with Obca. Oh my goodness, over 3,000 already. Slightly different here at 127. But now as this episode is coming to a close, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. So let me know your thoughts on all this are. Are you surprised to see some of these commanders at the top of the list or toward the bottom of the list, essentially? And again, obviously, I didn't jump into every single commander from the set. That would take forever. I just jumped to the ones that were 500 or more, and then, of course, all the pre-con commanders. But still, are you surprised about any of these? Are you not surprised about some of them? Are there any that you think are going to pick up even more speed and keep going and going and going? Or do you think Obca already has the crown, essentially, and is going to keep going? And how high do you think Obca can get? How much can she take over a commander? And where are we going to see her on that top list? Is she going to make it into like the top 10 at some point? I mean, with this trajectory, you never know. So yeah, let me know in the comments below. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.